By Cockney, of course, we refer to the popular accent of London, particularly the area concentrated around the traditional Cockney heartland, the so-called East End, centred traditionally on places such as Bethnal Green. People will tell you that a true Cockney is someone born within the sound of Bow bells. Bow, slightly to the east of Bethnal Green. It's questionable how much use that kind of definition is nowadays, since Bethnal Green in general is largely populated by people from other parts of the world. London's population is very mixed, of course, and that's certainly true of the Cockney heartlands. So there's a problem in defining what is meant by Cockney. Recently another term has come into widespread use, and that's this expression estuary English, which you may have heard. On the back of the handout, in fact, I've reproduced a newspaper article, a rather perceptive journalistic discussion of local accents and what they mean in England. So I'll leave that to you to read in due course. Every now and again, the British press becomes very excited about accents, that's the way we pronounce English. Just in the past week, there's been an explosion of interest, partly perhaps because there's not a lot of real news happening, at least in Britain. Everybody's on holiday. But the incident that triggered it concerned a young lady in Middlesbrough in the northeast who received a report from a career advisor that her accent was too common, and that if she wanted to get a job as a receptionist or something that she was aiming at, that she had better change her speech. She was very upset at this and protested, and all the newspapers wrote about it. And in consequence, I've been on the radio 5 times in this past week discussing, well, not so much this issue, but accents in general, and in 2 cases taking part in an hour-long phone-in where people rang in to say what they thought. People have very strong views about accents. This is something that is clear and became clear again in the phone-in. And what is interesting, of course, is the things they disapprove of, which range very widely from just general inability to project one's voice clearly. I quite agree, everybody can usefully learn to speak in public, to speak without lots of hesitations, to formulate their thoughts in a structured way. I hope I'm succeeding more or less in doing this, but I know it doesn't come naturally to everybody. But that issue, a perfectly reasonable one, gets all bound up with the question of what accent you use, because in England, your speech patterns, your accents, tend to reflect 2 major factors, one of which is your geographical origin, what part of the country do you come from, and the other of which is your social origins, what social class do you come from, or in some cases perhaps your social aspirations, what social class are you aiming towards. And it's in the context of that, you can read Neil Asheson's article, and in the context of that we must talk about Cockney. In England, certainly in Britain, it's useful to distinguish between accent and dialect, where dialect refers to all sorts of areas of language, including vocabulary, grammatical features, syntax, morphological features, as well as pronunciation. It's very clear that there's a difference between speaking in the local dialect and speaking standard English with a local pronunciation. One can in the same way speak in a local dialect which differs in various major ways from the standard national language, even though that may be spoken with some degree of local accent. Well now, as a dialect then, Cockney is similar to a great deal of localized non-standard English. And we look at some of the ways in a minute. Though Cockney does have certain traditional things such as rhyming slang. Now, has anybody come across rhyming slang? Who can tell us what rhyming slang is? Anybody like to offer? It's a traditional Cockney thing. If you go to Dillon's, you will see 3 or 4 different books which purport to be dictionaries of Cockney rhyming slang. Well, it works like this. We find a phrase which rhymes with the word we want to use. So, for example, if we want to refer to feet, we have the phrase plates of meat. And we use that instead of the word. So instead of saying your feet, you say your plates of meat. But then you make it more complicated by reducing the phrase. So instead of plates of meat, you say plates. That's how it works. That's rhyming slang. Instead of go upstairs, you go up the apples and pears. Or just the apples. Instead of having a look, you have a butcher's hook. Or for short, you have a butcher's at something. Well, you can see this is really very difficult to understand unless you know it. It's conventional. That's Cockney rhyming slang. Quite a number of items of this have become widely known and are no longer seen as Cockneyism. So to have a butcher's is very widely known. To have a butcher's at something. Let me have a butcher's. Let me have a look. Rhyming slang is also found in Glasgow, in Scotland, in Sydney, in Australia, and 1 or 2 other places. Now, who knows the expression, use your loaf? Head, right, yes, it means use your head, use your brain. Loaf of bread rhymes with head. Tit for. This is perhaps rather antiquated now. Tit for, to put on a new tit for, is a new hat. Tit for tat. Tit for tat, therefore tit for. And we spell it like this. Some other items of Cockney vocabulary there, just above. Words which have special meanings in London, not known elsewhere. The area in front of your house. Those houses in London that have a basement with steps down in front. That little patio, little open bit in front of those steps is called the area. It was a surprise to me when I first came to live in London. I didn't know what people meant when they say, put your dustbin out in the area. That's what they meant. A bloomer is a kind of loaf in London. It's a particular shape of loaf. Where I lived as a teenager in the Midlands, that particular shape was called a fadge. In fact, bread is one of the things that still retains different names in different parts of the country. To rabbit on about things. You know that? Go on talking. It's supposed to be from rabbit and pork, which rhymes with talk. Cocoa, I should know.